Hello, beautiful people. Hi, my name is Rachel Silber, and amongst other things, I'm also an access consciousness facilitator. And one of the greatest gifts that the breadth and depth of the tools of access consciousness has given me is a relaxation and a space of being me, of knowing that I know, and of allowing me to recognize really what's true for me. We have so many different tools in access consciousness that bring us to this space, to this point, to this awareness. But I used to live my life pretty much at the effect of everything and everyone around me. As a matter of fact, really, my entire life was almost a push button system for whatever was going on out in the world, whatever anyone would choose, whatever anyone would say, and it would activate something. It would like pull on a string, or it would, create something where I went into reaction. I went into resistance many times. I went into proving things rather than having the ease and the space and the relaxation and the joy, really, and joy not from that manic, I'm so joyful. No, like joy from this sense of space, of knowing that I know, of trusting myself, of being present, of having nothing to prove and absolutely everything to enjoy. And the more of these access consciousness classes that I take, and I just had two very big earth shaking, world shaking, body shaking, everything shaking classes. Because a lot of what we were speaking about in the Global Foundation class and in the Global Choice of Possibilities class that just recently took place was about how much of our life we create from our points of view, from whatever points of view that we have. And then we tend to either defend those points of view. Most often, we're defending points of views that we bought that may have absolutely nothing to do with us, but the rest of the world said that this is how it is. And so we took those on, and then having taken those on, we then go off to defend them. Um, and so we defend things with our points of views. We fight for things with points of views. We align and agree with points of view, or we resist and react to them. Like I said before, I was the expert at resisting and reacting. But the thing is, and the thing that we really forget, and wow, would this be a different world if we really, really get this concept, is that it isn't what's going on out there. It's what it is that our point of view is about what's going on out there that's creating that angst, that anxiety, that stress, that frustration, that whatever's going on in our world. See, we often go back to this autopilot of either resisting and reacting, which is like the negative polarity, or we align and agree with something. We accept something rather than having a different choice. And that different choice is something in access consciousness we call allowance. What is allowance? Essentially, so have a peek at this. When you buy a point of view, when you listen to somebody saying something, when you go, oh, they shouldn't be saying that, or that's just terrible, I can't believe they say that, or whatever is going on, whenever there's any judgment, conclusion, point of view, it takes two people aligning and agreeing with that point of view, or resisting and reacting to that point of view, whichever polarity you're looking at. There's still an element of making it real, which is aligning and agreeing with it. So as soon as we let it go, as soon as we don't buy into that game, we're able to create this reality as something, or have our own reality as something far more fluid. The more we're willing to let go of resistance and reaction, or alignment and agreement, or acceptance, then there is a different space that opens. I love a quote that Gary Douglas says. Gary Douglas, by the way, in case you guys don't know him, is the founder of Access Consciousness. And he says about allowance, you have two choices in life. One is to be in allowance, and the other is to be in acceptance. Acceptance is aligning and agreeing with a point of view, which is the positive polarity we spoke about. Acceptance can also be resisting and reacting to a point of view, which is the negative polarity. Both of these polarized points of views, both of these are polarized points of views, and neither of them is allowance. Allowance is everything, everything, everything is just an interesting point of view. If you are being the infinite allowance you truly have and are, nothing will ever bother you. Hang on a quick second. Or airplane, whatever it is, it's gone by and it's very noisy. So the thing is that when we are willing to be in the space of allowance, we become what's called the rock in the stream. In other words, life is not pushing us around. We can choose to be here, we can choose to be there, but we're not being pushed around. Our buttons are not being pressed, our puppet strings are disconnected. And someone can judge us, someone can hate us, someone can attack us, someone can adore us, whichever way they choose to be. And we realize that that's their world. When we see the world, when we see what people say and do and be with allowance, in other words, being interesting point of view, I have this point of view. Interesting point of view, they have this point of view, and they may be hateful bastards. It makes no difference. That's their point of view. In their eyes, it may be funny if you've watched the Oscars, or it may be miserable, or it may be terrible, whatever. That's a point of view. I don't have to buy it as real and true. I don't have to fight it. I don't have to resist it. I don't have to get up and slap nobody. I got nothing to do with that. I take a step back and go, interesting point of view. I have this point of view. Interesting point of view. They have this point of view. An interesting point of view. I have this point of view about their point of view. What's the value of fighting for or against anything that's going to create more of the fight and the struggle and the strife in the world, rather than the space of allowance, which is really interesting because then it becomes a space, not a contracted point. We get to be this space of allowance, this space of awareness, far more expansive. And now, from a more expanded space, we can ask, what else is possible here? If I were truly being the allowance that I be, what could I see? What could I be? What could I choose? What can I be and do different that's going to change this? How much more ease can I have? I don't have to fight anything. I don't have anything to prove one way or another. If somebody, and this has been really funny because I've seen it come up, teenage stuff. Hitler didn't finish the job, or you Jews with your big noses, or all sorts of stuff. I can fall into the trap of jumping into defending, or I can say, well, that's an interesting point of view. There's a little meme that I have. I can't remember the name of the Indian guru or whoever is doing it. I don't know, but he's a really funny fellow. And someone's asking him, what is the secret to eternal happiness? And he just says, to not argue with fools. And the dude that he's speaking to says, I disagree. And the guy says, yes, you're right. I mean, imagine how fucking amazing and glorious our world would be when nobody has to fight to prove anything. Nobody has to defend love or their family or anything like that. I mean, obviously, if somebody comes and physically does something, yeah, do something to prevent that. And if you're willing to be truly aware and not in any headspace of being only in a tight, contracted, compressed point of view, when you're truly being the space of awareness and the awareness of possibilities, you know where to be, you know when to be, you know to leave a place if it's necessary, because you begin to hear the whispers of consciousness, of possibilities with you. And I don't watch the news much, and I don't get into a lot of the trauma and drama. Really, I prefer to watch comedies when I see, Netflix or Disney or anything else. I prefer things that are lighthearted because they don't have too many points of views in them. When I see my daughter watching, she went through all 4 seasons of Cobra Kai, I couldn't tolerate it because there was so much trauma and drama. And I just didn't feel like having that as part of my world. Now, maybe she could run my bars. Having your bars run is a great tool to be able to be the space of allowance and awareness. Um, Allowance and relaxation, allowance and ease, the space that you truly be. Yeah, that's awesome. And yes, maybe that would help out. Like I had my bars run when I was watching the gaslighting movie and really got to see a lot about how I was gaslighted by my first husband years and years ago. And it was really interesting because to him, it didn't seem like gaslighting. To him, it didn't seem like anything wrong. To most people, a lot of the trauma and the drama and the stories, they don't recognize a basic principle. Okay? If I'm the one that's creating my world. I'm wearing these glasses, and currently the glass is clear, but let's pretend that they were pink. The world would look pink to me. Everybody would look pink, whether it's, this person or this tree or this house or the sky, everything would look pink. That's the filter that I'd have on. Now, if I put on, a golden filter, everything would look golden, amazingly golden and glorious and beautiful. And I could put on black and everything would look like that to me. See, it's really interesting. It is our point of view. So it's coming from in here and going out that creates our reality. I do not have to take offense at absolutely anything. Because if anybody says or does anything out there that's not physically hurting me, of course, but that's just words that's out there, I could take it and go, oh, you hurt my feelings. I spent 20 fucking years being hurt by something that my ex-husband said to me, gaslighter of magnitude that he was. And what's really cool is, and hi, Dalina and Halita. And what's really cool with the perspective of buying his point of view as real, buying his point of view as so true, I bought into the judgment. Now, judgment is just another point of view. Imagine you're walking into a room, lots of people in the room, and the corner where you're standing there by the hors d'oeuvres making small talk with someone, somebody walks up there and farts. That's a judgment. That fart, for example. You could sit there and put up with it, or you could just kind of la-di-da-di-da, amble off. You don't have to get involved in anybody's points of views or judgments. They have more to do with them, and you don't have to put up with any of it. You can walk away. You can make another choice. You can recognize that all of those points of views that you have about the point of view that they have, or the judgment that they have, or the conclusion that they said, or the joke that they made on national television, or whatever it is your thinking, your points of view about what's going on. So some people call them points of view, like in access speak. In other modalities and other things, they'll say we live in a thought created reality, that we live in the feeling of our thinking. In access, we don't really speak about feeling and thinking quite as much because we look at what is this point of view creating, what's going on over here. But if you're looking into, rather than really knowing what's true for you, going into the thinking mode, so you're living in the experience of everything that you see. And you're the seer, you're the thinker, you're the one who's looking through your colored lenses. What world are you looking at? What are you determining? So the basic underlying premise, here comes another airplane. The basic underlying premise that we have for our life and living in this reality is that things are happening to us that we have to fight for or against. We have to defend for or against. We have to avoid certain things. But what if that underlying supposition that it is somehow happening to us is actually opposite? A crazy phrase in access consciousness is everything is the opposite of what it appears to be, and nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be. So it looks like this person is out there, like my ex-husband, for example, trying to hurt my feelings, making comments about me, things that really, I'm telling you, I took to heart and was in therapy for 20 years, some of that shit. Okay. But the thing is, I didn't recognize it's just his shit. It's just his fart. It says more about him than it does about me. But I didn't know that at the time. I did not have these tools at the time. And I thought the world happens to me. I did not realize that I happened to the world. I did not recognize how much it comes from within me. When I have a certain point of view, when I have a certain frequency and certain energy, a certain vibration, a certain way of being, that is what goes out and creates my world. And I've been really freaking trying to avoid. I don't turn on the news. I don't do so much, like seeing exactly what's going on in the world. There's a lot of points of view out there where they're trying to fan the flames of polarity, of frustration, of getting that the flames of anger going for everyone. There's all sorts of theories, and you'd really have to delve deep into access consciousness tools and into conversations about humans and humanoids and techies and, what is actually fueling the polarity is fueling a lot of stuff in the world. And so there's a value in keeping us polarized and keeping us fighting and keeping us distracted from the gift and the space and the magic and the miracle that's truly us. And it is amazing to me how we forget to be that space because we go on this autopilot of resistance and reaction or alignment and agreement of buying whatever goes on out there as so real and true. But is it? It's actually my world shooting out there. And there was something I wrote, I think I may have pasted in here, because I can't even freaking remember the words, but it is so hysterical to me that, everybody's essentially like another character in a movie. It's our movie. We're the ones projecting it out there. And, if my husband, my daughter, my mother, my dog, my cat, my next door neighbor, my second grade teacher, my ex-husband, whoever is interacting with me, they're a 2-bit player in my movie, in my script. I don't have to keep choosing that. I don't have to let them take over the entire choice of everything in my life and living, even if they happen to be hosting the Oscars. So something may hurt, yeah. Do I have to actually get up and act on the first impulse? Or can I take a step back and go, wow, hello, if I'm having this much of a reaction, it's not the thing that's being said, it's in me. Interesting point of view that I have this point of view that I'd like to get up there and slap somebody or smack somebody or, destroy somebody's business or country or whatever else. Interesting point of view that I have this point of view. I wonder what's available beyond this. Interesting point of view. They have this point of view. Interesting point of view. I have this point of view about their point of view. And you know what? It is not easy to use these tools. It is not easy to be an allowance until it becomes ease from choosing using and becoming these tools walking. And I'm not going to say that I got it, because I don't. Obviously, here I am making this video because I saw several Access friends who are amazing facilitators jumping right into the fray with points of views and totally ignoring the concept of allowance, the invitation that allowance is, the ease that it can open up in the world. And there's a quote that Gary says, Gary Douglas, again, the founder of Access, and I pasted it beneath this video so that you can read it if you would like. If you're happy, it's not yours. If you are unhappy, it's not yours. If it's interesting point of view, then it's yours. You have to have this place where you realize, as long as I'm being interesting point of view, I'm having my awareness, my reality. When you look to see what other people are choosing, what you're doing is you're looking to see where their judgments are. Because other people seem to always function from judgments. They don't function from awareness. And if it is just interesting point of view for you, it is awareness. If it feels good or it feels bad, it's not awareness, it's a judgment. And I love that because it takes us out of that sting of feelings, nothing more than feelings. If we're willing to be in that flow, into that fluidity that allowance invites us to, then there's no resistance. Then anything and everything can change. And people can also change. They're no longer stuck. They're no longer having to hold on to the point of view that they're insulted or insulting or anything else. When we're willing to be an allowance, they can also begin to be an allowance. And we don't choose to be an allowance to make anybody else be anything other than what they are. Part of allowance is recognizing that people will choose whatever they choose, whenever they choose it. We cannot force anyone to be awake, nor can we force ourselves. It's just a choice every moment, every day, another step, another choice, another smile, another pod and pock, which is the clearing statement for short, pod and pock, the superpowers of consciousness. Everywhere we go into resistance and reaction or alignment and agreement with someone, we can use that pod and pock, or we can use the interesting point of view. I have this point of view. Interesting point of view. They have this point of view. Interesting point of view. I have this point of view about their point of view. From allowance, from that space of being interesting point of view, it's really cool. I don't know if you guys, I'm sure they have them in schools still nowadays, but when I was a kid in school and we would have to draw circles, like perfect circles, we'd use a compass. And what does a compass do? Anchors one foot in, and then you can create a perfect circle, right? Whichever size circle you'd like to have. But when you let go of the point, when you lift up, then suddenly you could have any view. I know this sounds a little bit like it's coming out of what the bleep do we know, but the thing is, you're no longer holding on to one point of view. You're no longer anchoring yourself. You're no longer sticking to only one thing. Suddenly, you have a different perspective, literally. And that perspective allows change, allows shifts, allows you to choose something that's different. And you no longer have to buy that one point of view as the only thing that you can create from, whichever size circle you're creating. But suddenly you have everything available to you. Suddenly everything is possible. Suddenly everything is included. Suddenly nothing really looks like such a huge problem or difficulty or, a situation. Suddenly nothing is bigger than you. Was truly an infinite being, but nobody ever tells us this, right? When we're growing up, nobody ever tells us that we are so far beyond this reality. Nobody ever explores that with us. But when we're willing to see it and we're willing to embrace it, we go into the magic and the miracle and the possibility and the spaciousness that we be. The space of being, the space of possibilities, the magic that we be, by not having to go into fight or flight or freeze or stuck. And we don't have to keep going until we're so fucked up. All of those lovely F's. There could be something far more fabulous around if we're adding more F's to the mix. We don't have to make anything real. Freedom is having no consideration whatsoever. There's a book that I love in Access Consciousness. It's actually, I do think it was the very first Access Consciousness book. It was from a class that was channeled in 1996, I guess, and it's called the How to Become Money Workbook. And there is a description. Now, okay, mind you, how to become money, people go, ooh, it's all about money. No, my friends, no. That book is about becoming you and really becoming more of you, regardless of what goes on in the rest of the world, being that amazing energy that trusts itself, yourself, myself, whatever it is. It's allowing yourself to celebrate being you. So one of the things that is in that book, and that book is by Gary Douglas, Access Consciousness, but it's when he would channel Raz. And Raz says, and he's speaking about money because it's the title of the book, right? That was the title of the class that was channeled in 96. And he's expressing what allowance is. Okay? Every time you create a consideration, another word for thought or for point of view, about money or the world, or somebody making fun of your wife or a war or anything else, you create a limitation upon yourself. And every time you tell somebody else what your point of view is, you create a limitation upon them. Right? Because they're also aligning and agreeing with that point of view. You wish to create freedom? Then be freedom. Freedom is no consideration at all. What would the world look like if you manifested all of life with ease and joy and glory and with no consideration about limitation at all? If you had unlimited thought and unlimited ability and unlimited allowance, would there be graffiti? Would there be homeless? Would there be war? Would there be devastation? Would there be blizzards? That was one of the conversations, and I think it's around sort of page 60-ish. I can't remember. But it's one of my favorite snippets where they're discussing the weather in 1996 and the big snowstorms in 96. And the student in the class asked Raz, well, what do you mean? But this is happening. This is real, right? So funny. And this is how Raz responded. He said, don't watch the news. They're making it bigger. They're saying it's going to be the great blizzard of 96. Oh my goodness, you have to run out there and buy things and prepare. And oh my goodness, this is going to be bad. So you have more people aligning and agreeing, or even resisting and reacting to the point of view. And it becomes worse and worse and bigger and louder and bigger and stronger and louder and more intense and more polarized and more. Really? If you didn't buy any of it as so real and true, if you could just but take a step away, a step up and away from it, right? I'm not going to, well, I mean, some people may say, oh, I'm climbing up the consciousness ladder. I don't know. I don't get steps or anything like that. What I do get is you just let that little, remember that compass, you just let go of the anchor, just lift anchor. And now, where would be fun? What would create different? What else is possible? What other point of view could I look through? And that's the thing, we have the freedom to choose to be space or to be any point of view. We don't have to buy into the resistance or reaction or alignment or agreement for any change to occur. whatever it is, in any situation, with our bodies even. If I'm busy judging my body and throwing all these different points of views about my body, would my body actually desire to shift or change or have more ease? No, because nobody enjoys being told how wrong they are. But if I'm willing to be the space of allowance, if I'm willing to, at least be as much allowance for me, or for my body, or for what's going on around me as the earth is for all of us, what could be different? I mean, like, look at the earth. It hasn't shaken us off yet. It hasn't done this whole big and all of us fly off into space and die for lack of oxygen or anything like that. No. The earth is very willing to just be interesting point of view. It allows our crazy ass nuclear cuckoo-ness. It allows us to drill. It allows us to mine. It allows us to do all sorts of the things that destruct. And then at some point it goes, you know what? I'm going to shut you down for a few months. Stop all travel. Let me recuperate for a while. What energy, what space, what consciousness, what choice, what magic, what miracles, what mysteries, what possibilities, what power, and what potency can we be to be in total allowance of ourselves, of the stupids that are around us, and for anything and everything that we choose to experience and see with total ease, total joy, and total glory. That's the mantra of Access Consciousness, by the way. If you guys didn't know it, it's all of life comes to us with ease, joy, and glory. I'll just click on there so you see it. And it is one of the biggest gifts. There is no judgment in all of life comes to us with ease, joy, and glory. There's no having to defend anything. There's no having to defend from anything. There's no fight in all of life comes to us with ease, joy, and glory. And mind you, there's stuff that comes that's not pleasant. But it is our thinking about it that creates it as massively unpleasant. And again, it goes back to us. It is our point of view that creates our experience of the world. So what could we choose that's different? And what out of control allowance could we be for ourselves and for others that will melt the fight, that will get out of the this is right and this is wrong, and I can't believe that he said this, I can't believe that he did this, and oh my God, he hurt my feelings. You know what? If you recognize that you are not your feelings, then there's nothing to be hurt. Who are you beyond the having to get hurt, beyond having to personalize every single thing? Even when I'm told Hitler didn't finish the job, I have the point of view that I could be and do whatever energy that even allows stupids to melt off the planet. But I don't have to step on any stage and smack anybody. I don't have to go out and shoot anybody. I don't have to act on that specific thought, because I recognize it's a thought, it's a point of view, and it shifts and passes like clouds in the sky, but not right now, because right now it's like all white, almost looks like it's gonna rain soon. But I know beyond all of those clouds, all of those thoughts, all of those feelings, all those emotions, if you'd like to call them that, there's a clear blue sky. In other words, there's the infinite being that I be. I don't have to make anything, not even those clouds that are in front of me, true and real. I have a choice. And in that choice, I have the freedom to be any point of view, to be whatever works for me in the moment. And I'm not at the effect of anything or everything around me. I get to choose. What if being that space of interesting point of view is the space where we have true choice, where we have communion, where we can see possibilities, where we can see that maybe a person who's lashing out at us is hurt or is maybe just an asshole. Could be too. But, maybe they're just pulling at straws and doing the best they can with whatever they've got at the moment. I can buy it as true and real. And it's really funny because, like, if you look at, when somebody's pointing fingers at you or making jokes about you or accusing you of things, I'm a very graphic person. And I see one finger pointing at me because, they accuse you, right? But whatever people accuse you of is what they themselves are being or doing. Look how many fingers are pointing right back at them. So when somebody judges you, it actually tells you more about them than about you. And when you can be the space of allowance that literally melts everything that's around you, you no longer have to react. And then who's in control? And then who's in the bigger person? And then who's relaxed? And then who doesn't have to keep churning and thinking about, oh, I should have said this. I should have. No, there's nothing to fight. There's nothing to even resent or to be upset about. It's just an interesting point of view. What if one of the greatest gifts that we could give ourselves is not to have to fight or to struggle, not to have to resent anything, not to have to, oh my goodness, regret anything. Simply in being the space of allowance, have the freedom to be the space and the ease and the elegance, really, that we can be. And no longer be attached to any of that stuff. So anyway, I thought I'd be going on for 5 minutes and 35 minutes later. But it's really funny to me. If we don't have to take a point of view, then we can see possibilities. And if we're willing to be interesting point of view, really, truly interesting point of view, if we're willing to be that space of allowance, I have a little thingy for that too, from the clearings that I do with Helen. There we go. Allowance is being willing to be interesting point of view. That's like your antidote to this reality in a way, you see, because nothing can affect you. You can't be the effect of anything because you're not aligning and agreeing or resisting and reacting. You can affect change by being that space. You being interesting point of view means that you are not fixing, solidifying, or holding on to one little point of view. You can be anything. You can be everything. And there is such a gentle greatness, a phenomenons really, when you're willing to be in the space of allowance for you, for the world, for anybody and everybody around you, even for ex-husbands, for everything. And you don't have to keep acting, reacting, or having your buttons pushed. What possibilities would you have then? What possibilities would be available in the world? I mean, can you imagine looking at a newspaper or news website or even social media feeds? And yeah, that's what I was saying before, is that I wasn't really turning on the news, but I got to see social media feeds of, other access facilitators that I shook my head and went, okay, maybe you missed a telecall or two on allowance. By the way, I was just going to say, on the Access Consciousness website, there's at least a couple of telecalls with Gary Douglas on allowance. And also Dane here and Emily Russell did a telecall on allowance. It's not easy to get into allowance, but like I said before, it is ease when you practice it. And this interesting point of view. Okay, so this is really, I do have a napkin. My friend the napkin's going to help me out. We're going to squish it and we're going to pretend it's a marble or a ball. Sorta. Yeah, but I'm in allowance of myself not making perfect balls, but imagine that it's a perfect kind of roundish circle. Okay. When you have a marble in the mud or in, some solid surface, it doesn't move very much, right? But when you begin to roll it, when you begin to um, clean around it, when you begin to make space, you can begin to move it, you can begin to turn it, you can begin to shift it. And one of the tools that we have in Access Consciousness, and I absolutely love this, and periodically, though not every day, depending on how much time we have, Helen Gitlovich and I in the Being You Without Hiding group on Facebook, we do clearings for change. She was there in the Ukraine when the war broke out, and we had been doing clearings prior. But after she got back from the Ukraine, we did even more clearings. And one of the things that we do is we look for point of view. What point of view can you notice? Here's a point. Here's our point of view. What one molecule, one perspective, one point of view, one something that you see out there that's got cat fur in it. And I'm a little OCD, so I can see the cat fur from, can't see much, but see that. That's really funny. But you see that point of view, okay? And you can see that it's there, stuck in the mud or whatever. Now, what happens if you put your attention, your awareness on it, and you begin to shift it? You begin to turn it. You begin to turn the polarity on it. What is turning the polarity? Interesting point of view. I have this point of view. Turning it 180 degrees. Interesting point of view. I have this point of view. Turning it again 180 degrees. Interesting point of view. Now, this is a visualization for you, right? But you don't have to do it graphically, and you don't have to, ruin your napkins or anything like that. It's just you take that point of view and you shift it and you turn it. When you do that with a little marble, and I remember seeing marbles stuck in mud at the downstairs of my house when we were little kids in Israel, and we would roll them and we would move them and we would, just to free them and be able to roll them around. But you get that rolling, that fluidity, that movement, that when you're willing to begin to turn things, when you're beginning to allow them to not be the way they are, but to see what else could I see here? What else is possible here? What else is available? How does it get any better? Universe, show me. Each question is a beginning of a turn. And the more you're willing to turn these molecules, to turn these points of views, to turn things upside down, inside out on their heads, the more fluidity there is for everyone, for you, for your life, for your body, for wherever that point of view happened to be. Last year, we also did it a lot with governments and with, and not just last year, but we've done it in different times with what one molecule could you change in a government or in a situation when you are willing to be the expansive space of possibilities that you truly be, and you turn around and look towards the world and you look to see what's one rigid point of view here, what's one thing that rather than defending for or against it or avoiding the possibilities that could show, what one little thing that I could begin to shift and change and turn and move, then you begin to see that nothing is at face value. And everything really can be the opposite of what it appears to be. And there are gifts in every situation. In everything, there's a saying in English, I think it's called, every cloud has a silver lining. We call it sometimes the beautiful energy that's beneath things, that brings it to the surface, that makes it available for you to see and to be. So what's right about the situation? What's right about you? What's the gift in this that you may not have been seeing? So rather than having to go into fight, into flight, into freeze, into, fucked up or anything else, you can just see that you really, really do have a choice. And that choice is your freedom to be that space and the magic of your very being, and the possibilities that you invite into the world by not having to jump into any conclusion or any fight or anything else. So I hope that contributed. I do hope that more of us begin to choose to have a little more ease with being and with being us and with pretty much everything around in the world around us. We can choose. It's our world. We get to choose. We get to create. We get to have some fun. And how does it get any better than that? Oop, cat fur. So thank you. And I hope this was a contribution. See y'all later. Bye.